Regina Clark.
Boy, baptism by fire, huh? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let the record show that all governing board members are present tonight, as are all members present. Ms. Hilda Laura is out for the evening. That will take us to the welcome statement. So, I want to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting and remind the audience of the request to address board cards that must be completed and submitted to the board secretary if they wish to speak to an agenda item. Board policy provides for 2 cards, white cards to be submitted in order to speak to an agenda item, and blue cards to be submitted in order to speak during public comments. Policy also states there is a 5-minute maximum time limit per speaker. Due to the open meeting law, board members are not allowed to address items that are not on the agenda. If you do not want to address the board but wish to give your comments in writing, you can do so on a goldenrod sheet, and all members will receive a copy. And that takes us to item 2A, approval of agenda.
Move the governing board approve the agenda as presented.
A second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Seeing as though there are no public comments, we can skip down to item 4A, the superintendent report.
Good evening, and thank you. The first thing I want to share with you is that I had the great opportunity to meet with 20 aspiring principals and leaders who are in our Leadership Academy, led by Dr. Tommy Neal under the direction of Dr. Sue Peterson. And we've got an eager group of people who are eager to take that next step in leadership, and we're going to train them good. But we want to grow our own. The second thing I'd like to share with you is September 22nd is our first community council, and we're going to combine that with a candidates forum. And all 5 of our candidates for the 3 seats that are open have agreed to participate. The agenda for the evening will begin with a facilities update based on the last time we had a community council meeting, so that the community can hear, here's what you said to us, so here's what we did. And as a result, celebrate that the board did vote 5-0 for going forward with putting the bond on the agenda. The bond pros and cons statements were submitted on time, and it's my understanding from the Maricopa County Superintendent that all comments submitted were strictly pro. So we have a variety of people who I understand contributed to that. And then after that, we will dismiss the community forum to say this is what your words said to us as far as needs and triage of the school building. And then we will invite the candidates to respond to a series of questions, and depending on time management, figure out how to include audience participation. But we've invited Susan Carlson, the former executive director from ABEC, Arizona Business and Education Coalition, who is also a former board member of Creighton, and seems like the most neutral person to involve. And she has agreed to host as our moderator for the evening. So looking forward to a good turnout for that.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Governing board reports. Ms. Sexton-Rees, do you have anything that you'd like to share with the board?
No, just that we'll be attending the Arizona School Board Association Law Conference on Thursday and Friday, and Saturday as an alternative delegate for the state meeting. That's all. Thank you.
Ms. Young, anything to share? No. Mr. Zaragoza? Nothing. Okay. Ms. McSherry? You're listening, McSherry. I have nothing to share.
You kept your purse up here, so.
Okay. Now that I know how much it's worth. All right, so that will take us to approval of consent agenda items.
I move the governing board approve consent agenda items A through I in accordance with policy BEDB-R.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so let's give a quick congratulations then to Miss Gina Clark on your new position. And now you say the pledge every time.
Right.
Okay, that'll bring us to item 6A, educational services. This is the presentation on the Spanish immersion professional development that took place over the summer, right?
President Castine, fellow board members, Dr. Lewis, it is truly our pleasure to come tonight to share our experiences of our collateral trip this summer. We're going to share a little bit about our folks that we spent time with, about what we experienced in the classrooms, our host families, and Joel, if you'll click the first, this will show you what our purpose of our trip was. Our first one was to deepen our understanding and gain better acquisition of the Spanish language. We wanted to make sure and deepen our understanding of the Mexican culture and history. And finally, it was to gain a better sense of understanding about the experiences that our families in Creighton have each and every day as they are being immersed in English, only thing on the flip side. So we are ready to share.
Here are our beautiful faces. That's great. We traveled from June 18th to July 2nd, so for about 2 weeks, to Querétaro. And we got there safely. We met other schools also that have also participated in this program. There was Levine and Osborne were the two school districts that also came. Levine was currently opening, or just recently opened, a new school with a dual language program, so that was their kind of focus in this experience. And they had the opportunity to have their staff, a couple teachers, as well as their principal and their superintendent all go on this trip, so that was an incredible bonding experience for that whole team. And then there were 2 people from Osborne who also came, 2 different positions, a teacher as well as a principal, so that was also a great connection for them. And Osborne is also focused on language acquisition, so that was a great connection with them as well. Once we got to the airport, we all found each other, thank goodness. The whole trip in itself was completely fantastic. I mean, probably the best organized trip I've ever been on. And as soon as we got there, we were greeted by people from the school, and they brought us right to our host families, and that's where we are now. Here are some pictures of us with our host families. All of us stayed with the host family, none of us stayed anywhere else. Most of us had either 2 to 4 people that would stay with the families with us. All of us were greeted basically by the whole family once we got there. Everybody was there. And I think that is a huge representation of the Mexican culture, because everything that you do in Mexico involves a family and a connection, and everything involves food. Bonding goes over food. Everything is done over food. But they were so willing and open to incorporate us in every single thing that they did with their families. They toured us around the school, around the town, brought us to the school. They included us in their celebrations and their dinners, and they made meals. And just seeing how important and how valuable family was to the families in Mexico, I think was a big takeaway, as well as the amount of food that was used or eaten. And I think that was something that I took away personally, and I want to share real quick, is that I learned you cannot make a business deal in Mexico or any kind of relationship without food, because that is a relationship. You want to develop an understanding. If you don't have a personal connection, why would you want to have a business connection with them? It's not worth your time. And so I think that was my biggest takeaway coming back here was, I can't shove paperwork at my parents and say, dude, this is their schedule, this is their program, this is their day, blah, 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 here you go, fill this out, I need it back by Friday. That scares them. That's not how they do things. They do things after you have eaten a bunch of tortillas and eaten a bunch of salsa and had that connection. And so for me, when we had our APTT, we chose to have more of a connection before we moved into all the academic stuff. And so we had doubled our attendance this year because we had increased, we had promoted our salsa festival. So we had we brought chips and they brought in salsa. And I was surprised that we had that many parents participating, but they got green salsa, we had red salsa, we had spicy salsa, we had mild salsa, we had guacamole, we had queso. We had a ton of stuff. And that really showed me that just involving a simple thing like food is a great connector and a builder. And that was just a takeaway that I took from the trip and that experience with the family to here, and it already made a difference.
Hola, me llamo Ana y quiero decir sobre las clases de Mento. Tenemos 7 horas de clases cada día. So we had 7 hours of class a day on our trip. 2 hours in the morning were grammar. We had an hour of conversation class. We had 2 hours of a cultural class, which included Mexican history as well as excursions into the city where we visited different historical sites. And then we had 2 hours to go home and have comida with our families. We returned to the school and had 2 more hours of sort of a grammar and conversation class combined, sort of a synthesis class at the end of the day. And so we were busy. It was a full day of classes. We had 3 different levels of Spanish-speaking classes there, and the classes were very small, so 4 to 7 people. So it was a good way to practice and learn Spanish in such a small setting. We got to learn what it feels like to be a language learner, and we got to witness the teachers showing us best practices for language acquisition. And we were those students, and they were modeling for us how to have wait time, how to include games and interactive activities, and times for conversation, and drawing, and vocabulary and grammar, and all of that mixed in. So it was really an excellent way to be learning Spanish in that sort of environment. We also had in our classes, in addition to people from Osborne and Levine, we had students who weren't even part of this group, so from Japan, from Germany, from Minnesota. We had people in our classes, so it was a great way to connect. So you can see these pictures. These were some pictures from the classes. The teachers were extremely kind and patient and really knew what they were doing. Cultural class. So these 2 pictures I think are both from cultural class. It was really profound, the understanding that we came away with of Mexican history, and really just the timeline and the effects of that. And I think it really helped give us context for the culture, learning that history. You can see in the bottom picture, that's in the school courtyard. I think between, I don't know which classes, we had like a 15-minute break. And so we would spend time just getting a snack or more coffee or whatever we needed. But these are some photos from the classes. We got to apply what we learned in a couple of ways. So we went on excursions in our cultural class and spoke to people in the community in Spanish, and had different things that we needed to ask. Who is the man in the statue? And we had to go around the square and ask them. You can see we're in a market. We had to go and barter, I guess, a little bit, I don't know. We had to find ingredients to make guacamole, and we had a celebration, and so using our Spanish in context, in addition to using our Spanish with our host families. That was really, really valuable, especially for me. I spoke to my host mom exclusively in Spanish, and as someone who I feel like I'm on the cusp of conversational Spanish, that's just the best way to practice. So that was a little bit about our classes. Yeah.
Buenas noches. Primero, muchas gracias por la oportunidad de participar, aprender y crecer en esta aventura en México. La experiencia fue profunda para mí. I've been in other immersion programs before that were not as profound in helping support my personal language acquisition process. I'm very much in the silent phase, and it will probably be until, well, I don't know. But I think for me, having this experience being in an immersed environment really spoke to my experience at Illinois and going into classrooms and watching as our Spanish language learners are accessing Spanish through content. It was a great experience to have that opportunity. I also want to just connect about the families. I think it was wonderful to build those relationships, to meet family members, and to just have a connection, a personal connection. And they never spoke English to us, so I think they knew English. So I wanted to reflect a little bit on the trip that we took. Carlson Affiliates was really wonderful in working with Olay, the school, to set up a site visit at a school. School was still in session in Mexico. I think it was the last week for them. So we were able to go visit Colegio El Brazon, which is a private school. Its director is one of the sisters of the order that created the school, built it in the community where they found a need. And this particular order tries to seek out impoverished communities and to work to help support their development in academics, in social development, spiritual development, as well as building community. Community is very important to this school. They have a garden. But before I move on to the garden, we thought this was really fascinating. This was a statistical analysis of positive behavioral strategies that are being implemented in the school that the students surveyed and were developing their own analysis of that work. So it was kind of a neat thing to see that they're embedding statistical analysis in their curriculum, just like we know so we met the director and her assistant and had a great conversation about some of the challenges that they have, not just in their school, but in Mexico as a whole in the educational system. A couple of things that seemed very familiar. One is that funding is an issue, so go figure. They're privately funded, so of course they have other stressors with that. They have to seek out philanthropic means to make sure that they have the funding. They are also a work site for the community, so the staff that's not teaching are from that neighborhood that come into the school and work. There's an expectation that when your child is accepted into the program that as a family, you give back to the community. So the families come in and they help clean, they help organize, they help to maintain the facility. There's also an expectation similar to our APTT model where parents are required to have classes that teach them how to help their child be successful academically. And that was really an interesting thing to see. They're also under the auspices of the state for testing, and we had a little bit of a conversation about what state testing meant for them. And I think back to a few weeks ago when we were in the room and we were talking about how it's not just a measure for the state, but it's also taking it down to the student level to see what best interventions are available for those students. And they serve all students at this school, which was really neat to see, because I've been in schools in other countries where they were separated out depending on what their needs are. So that was nice to see that. It was definitely an honor to be able to visit this school. It's not typical for them to accept visitors. It's not like here we tend to have a lot of opportunities for visitors to come on to our campuses and to see our programs. It seems to be very rare in Mexico, so we're appreciative of that. They also struggle with teacher retention. I think that, thinking about Creighton as well, they train their teachers very well at this school, and they don't pay as much as the public school system. So they've got about a 30% turnover where they train teachers, and those teachers move into the public sector because they can make more money. So it's sort of a revolving door, similar to what we've experienced in the last however long. So, this picture up here is Dr. Lewis engaging with some of the children and hanging out in the garden. They were very excited to practice their English with us. We went into a preschool where they were just learning some phrases, and that was very cute to see. And then we went into about 5th grade, I think, 5th grade class where it was their English time. And so they were excited to ask us questions, and we were great guests really to have with them. So I think that's about.
And at the end of our 2 weeks, Mexican celebration, we closed it all off with a celebration of our accomplishments and a recognition of our success. And we invited the teachers and the directors and all the other students as well that were not in our team, but they also came in. We just talked about our takeaways, what we learned, and what we felt was important, and what we would want to apply in our daily lives and our educational life when we come back. And I wanted to also reference that it was very unique to be in an environment that they were just so loving and just caring. And it was just so unbelievable, the amount of just heart that they all had that you could take away. And you're like, this is what I want to bring back to Creighton. And I feel like that whole celebration itself is also so important because like life goes on. We don't just go, it's not going to stop for us. But they make the time to stop. And I think sometimes we think, oh, this kid is leaving school earlier, this child is not coming to school on time, but they actually might have been at home and they might have celebrated success because they finally got an A on something or we're proud of something. And I think that's something we need to focus on more, is celebrating those little accomplishments and really understanding, hey, we were only there for 2 weeks, they can speak Spanish, I'm still working on it, but yay, I got through the program and that was great. And I think that kind of was a beautiful way to end everything, saying like, we did this and it was wonderful, and we can take that spirit home.
Dr. Peterson was taking the pictures. Her photo.
She did not graduate.
I really did get a certificate. Español es no bien, pero mejor.
So this is just a picture of everyone at the school. This includes the Creighton district, the Osborne, Levine. It includes administrators, teachers, other students who are at the school who are not in our team. I thought it was such a blessing to be in a group where we had all levels of education represented. We had superintendents, instructional coaches, principals, teachers, master teachers, all together learning Spanish. And I'm really excited as a teacher personally. I feel like this year, instead of asking a coworker to translate for me, I can finally offer to translate for a coworker. And that's such a blessing that I got from this trip. Do you guys have any questions?
Well, this is a bill from the church, replicates the church in Guanajuato, and we thought it would be a nice gift to tell the board, thank you so much for, now this is not a dinner bill, you can't call me, okay, you can call me anytime you want, but I just wanted to make sure each of you had a little token of our appreciation for the support you offered in the trip, and we thought we'd give you a church school bill from Guanajuato, from the group.
Thank you.
Guanajuato.
Thank you very much.
Not questions, but comments.
Yeah, if anybody would like to go first, questions, comments?
So I'll just say, like 13 years ago, I had an opportunity to do an immersion program in Israel. It was a 5 or 6 week program in Hebrew. It didn't have like a cohort to like retreat to, so it was like the real, like it felt like I was thrown to the wolves type of thing. But some of the things that you shared, that you did these activities, I remember like going to the market to try and get food, or to the post office and just practicing. And it was like, to me, like really amazing how much language plays a role in culture. So I'm really glad that you all had this opportunity. I think what you're bringing back with what you shared about with the community, this isn't just transactional, we're here just to do this business, but we are building community. You talk about the tangible love that you felt. Like, I hope that's what we're building. Like, that's what I'm on the board to do. So I'm really excited to see this permeate, and hopefully we can continue this for more and more of our educators. Thanks for sharing.
I'd like to say also, if you're interested, I taught myself Spanish when I was a lot younger. And one thing I did is watch a novela every day. So if you're interested in like trying to keep it up, keep learning up, if you just hook on to one soap opera that's in the evening or something and just watch it every day, that's always. But,
Muy dramática.
Yeah, muy dramática. and even the Spanish radio too. I was always had that on. I kind of immersed myself for a while. But yeah, that's in the culture, everything is said about it very, very true. You know, taking a step back, taking because I lived there for quite a while, and food and having a connection first, not just jumping into things business first. Very nice. Thank you for sharing.
I appreciated you bringing up the connections first, because as a classroom teacher, we're so like, we've got to get this done, and why haven't the parent signed that yet? So I would really appreciate you bringing the more human side and the idea of meeting together instead of, well, this is on my watch, so let's do things like this. So thank you for that. Made me think about things a little bit.
I haven't been in an immersion program, but I've lived with host families overseas with a language barrier, and I don't speak Japanese. But it's a lot of what you said can be transposed to other cultures, and it's kind of interesting once you get into another culture, even though you might have dealings in the future with someone who is not from Mexico, is not from Hispanic heritage, but is from an ethnic group that is not yours. You look at them with different eyes. It kind of like expands your mind, which is great. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity also to learn Spanish. That's cool too. And Hannah, are you the one who sent the cards?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
When we went to Hermosillo, it was very similar with the food. It was overwhelming almost that there was so much food. And Dr. Lauren, I'm sure you've experienced that down there too. I mean, that was a big learning experience for all of the parents that visited the school. And my question is, I mean, everything you've taken back sounds great. Is there a way to share some of this with your peers or with other people within Creighton? Like some of these takeaways, like the APTT is a great example.
I think it has to kind of build upon each other. So we started it just to see if it actually works in third grade. We got third grade down. We'll see about school-wide and see what the school decides to want to do and about that, and then we kind of just, I think it has to just kind of feed out, and because a lot of our families are also connected, so because the families are so close to one another, and so once the word comes out that hey, we're not so scary, that hopefully that'll feed into other schools, and then build.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Okay, that takes us all the way down to 10A, the orientation on current survey practices.
Good evening, Madam President and members of the governing board and cabinet committee. Is that better? I'll try to use my playground voice. So thank you for the opportunity this evening to share a little bit about our district surveys. So our purpose today is to provide an overview of the surveys that we use in Creighton School District. And as I was preparing for this presentation, I thought it would be interesting to just Google a little bit about how to create an effective survey. And one of the pieces of information that I thought was very interesting is the the longer the survey, the less time people spend on answering the questions. So here, 26 to 30 questions, people will only spend about 19 seconds per question. So, and this evening I have Mr. James Diaz, who will be sharing in the presentation, offering, there we go, offering a teacher perspective, and Mr. Andy Gutierrez offering an administrative perspective. Unfortunately, Erica Lozano was unable to attend this evening. She has a new baby at home. So, a little bit about the TEL survey. This, we have given the TEL now 3 years in a row. It is the Teachers Working and Learning Conditions Survey. It used to be the Governor's Survey way back in the district. It's considered valid and reliable, and it's given in the spring every other year through the new Teacher Center. We were able to get the questions for the survey for free to use because we had such high participation way back in 2006, I would say. And it's utilized in 20 different states. I thought it would be interesting. They have a quick informational video. Only a minute to hear from them. And we prompted it just because. Go ahead. I think I was a technology mentor teacher when I taught 6th grade.
The TEL data, which is Teaching, Empowering, Leading, and Learning, we've used that data on new teacher responses to the supports that they receive to dictate some of the changes and adjustments that we make to our programs.
The TEL survey gives state commissioners a wonderful opportunity to hear directly from teachers and principals, educators all across their state.
One important piece of the work and use of TEL data is that it doesn't matter if you're a high-performing school or low-performing school. This data is a rich set of data that schools can use for school improvement to then improve student learning outcomes.
You can actually see schools change, and we're excited about seeing the trend, so that when you focus on something, you can actually see the improvement every 2 years. And again, as the working conditions improve, then the achievement will improve.
So the TEL survey has 8 different,
Coming in, I had absolutely no idea or experience.
Goodness for everybody helping. So there are 8 constructs in the TEL survey, and actually it only has 12 questions, yet each question has a number of indicators. So there are actually 167 clicks that a teacher would have to perform in order to give input on the survey. So if you multiply that by 19 or less seconds that a teacher would probably put into answering the questions, it's a good hour that they spend on taking this survey. Also, it's interesting to note the New Teacher Center recommends that 50% feedback from each school for the TEL survey. 30% is considered reliable information. We, our first year out, had a great representation at 85%. We're still well above the 50% average this last year at 62%. And the information given by the TEL really helps us figure out what are the different conditions that are affecting our teachers and help us make school improvement decisions, teacher retention decisions, mainly allocation of time, instructional resources, and differentiation of professional development were the big findings on that survey. But it takes a lot of time to look at the information, to give the information. So we'll be focusing on perhaps modifying if we want to give certain constructs each year, or give it every other year, like the new teacher center, just to make sure that we're actually communicating the findings that we have. So now let me turn it over to Mr. Gutierrez and Mr. Diaz.
Good evening, members of the governing board and cabinet. I'm going to talk quickly about the questions. They come from the tripod or the MET. The MET stands for Measures of Effective Teaching Project, which is part of the Bill and Melissa Gates Foundation. And the nice piece is it's one of the few surveys that's been validated by the Melissa and Bill Gates Foundation. As far as the parent survey goes, it's provided in English and in Spanish. As you can see, there was about 1,298 parents that took this survey. Out of those questions, there's 5 questions that are very broad and general questions. However, 8 of those questions come directly from the MET, which is the Bill and Melissa Gates Foundation. So Mr. Diaz will talk about the student survey.
So the student response rate there, you can see 3,472. It was, it was administered grades 3 through 8, and that's the response, and it's used in reference to school improvement, administration evaluation, pay for performance in different levels. One thing to point out too as well is a lot of this is centered around the idea of voice for students and having an impact in their school and stuff like that. So some feedback we've received before in the past is to take a look and take into consideration student council and the policies around student council and how those work at schools, possibility of maybe a student government or something like that, to be a student-led governing board of some kind, just some other things to keep in the back of your mind if it's something that maybe could be in consideration, because there are some interesting aspects about student council and the policies and the professional development that goes along with it.
Excuse me, are we gonna see anywhere what the percentage of teachers that responded at all?
Student parent surveys?
Oh, no, I mean for the hotel. Hotel survey.
It was on that last slide with the numbers, and we saw that from, what was it, 2014?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I got it.
All right, the next interview is the exit interview. This is provided to people that are exiting our school district, and it's provided either in person or electronically. It does help us gain some insights on the organizational and structural pieces that can help us improve as a district. Sometimes it's obviously too late for the employees because they're exiting, so they've already usually turned in their paperwork to leave our district. It can be a little bit time consuming sometimes. They do have a perception of fear sharing this information with us. And then we have some that just unfortunately they know they're already leaving the district, so they fail to complete the exit interview. This next one is something that we tried this past year, and it's actually called the stay interview. The neat piece about this is it's working with the staff that is currently with us right now. We usually try to do it in October or November. It gives us some immediate feedback on what we can do and some changes that we can make to help keep our employees. It gives us an increase to help with teacher retention. It helps us with build relationships because it can either be done as a small group, it can be done individually, so it does help with those relationship building. The piece is, it can be time consuming, especially when you're doing it one-on-one, because they take about 10 minutes or so that you want to gather some information but make it not seem like an interview, so it can be a little bit of time consuming. It's perceptional data. This past year we only surveyed about 10% of our employees for these state interviews. Sorry, I'm up again. We have a few other surveys that we provide. The first three that I'll be talking with, the rubric for school improvement, which is for our school improvement leadership team. This helps us with our needs assessment for our Title I. The nice piece is Dr. Peterson and Cabinet found a new one that we'll hopefully be using a little bit, that's a little bit more in depth and a little bit more detailed, that will hopefully help us with our school improvement process.
The next two kind of tie hand in hand. The safety grant, which helps provide the funding for our school resource officers. What we've done in the past is kind of tag teamed our Obeas anti-bullying survey with that, because it's one less survey that we have to provide our kids. However, it still helps us meet the grant requirements.
In addition, annually there's the Playwork survey, climate surveys, and professional development feedback. Whenever a teacher attends a professional development of some kind, there's always, at the end of the day, a feedback survey. In addition, there's also opportunities on the website for teachers throughout the year to be able to give feedback. If there's something that comes across in terms of their professional development that they think would be relevant, some inconsistency about the curriculum, there's a little tag on there that on the website that they can go and give feedback at the end of that professional development day or throughout the year as well too. In addition, there's also McKinney-Vento. There's a McKinney-Vento survey that is not listed up here yet, but it's going to be coming out as well too, that relates specifically to homeless families and some of the things that are surrounded about that.
Is the McKinney-Vento, is it like a management survey, is it?
We'd have to dig a little bit more with the Director of Community Education. What I did was send out an email to all of leadership saying what kind of surveys are out there, and just, so that one just came in today. So I think it's an evaluation of the services that are out there.
Okay.
This is a slide that was actually submitted by Eric Lozano in terms of the strengths and challenges that come across. The good thing is that there's a lot of information district-wide throughout the Creighton School District, and it hits on a lot of different areas. Some of the challenges are the system for analyzing and specific objectives that go along with that. That's kind of a touchy one too, because if you don't want to go into analyzing analyzing any kind of data with a preconception about what you're trying to accomplish. The idea is to essentially listen and see what things pop out and what things are working out for things. But it does help for some clarification to make sure you have that balance when you're trying to figure out, what is it that I'm trying to listen to? What's the most appropriate level for that to happen? Is it the site level, to district level? Where do those things occur? But those are some of the challenges. I know that some administration and definitely the coaches have some things that they're on their mind as well.
So when we look at our strengths and our challenges, we really looked at, we're asking good questions. We may be asking too many and too often, and maybe looking at focusing and streamlining. Collecting the feedback, again, I feel like that's a strength. People are participating. When we're looking at analyzing the data and disaggregating the data amongst the sites, the area just from my perspective, our greatest weakness is that communication out into how does that actually turn into an action plan. Because the sites are doing the school improvement action plans. I know the principals are working really hard on retention. If you look at the compensation committee, and they're looking at, wow, pay is a really big piece. Or if you look at the instructional time committee, all those pieces are in there, but are we communicating that that's where we are getting our action plan from? So I think that we need to look a little more at focus and a lot more at communication for our next steps. But I wanted to open it up to the governing board to kind of hear perceptions and anything that you'd like us to think about. Does anybody have any?
Well, one question. If we think about just the TEL survey in particular, like with surveys, you don't need 100% to tell you to get an idea of what's going on. There's generally some science and some statistics behind all this. So what are we doing to make sure we have, especially because we heard it takes like an hour to do this, in addition to all the other tasks that we have our staff perform. Like what do we do to make sure that it's a good sample, diverse, random, or I just am curious how we implement that so that we get the representative sample that we need to make decisions or to give us the analysis we need, the data?
So currently we have a 62% participation, which is 30% higher than the 30% for reliability. The New Teacher Center recommends at least a 50%. In the past, when we had really high with the 85%, Mr. Diaz and I worked together on some strategies, ice cream parties, those kind of things for participation. I think when people take the same survey over and over again, and it's quite lengthy, that may deter them from in the future. So the last 2 years, where we got the 60% participation, which is also good, but that was just sent out via email saying you have this open window of time. I think it was almost a month time for them to take it. Some strategies that we brainstormed with the leadership team is if you have the teachers in a staff meeting and you have, this is what worked for us back in 2006, you have the teachers in the staff meeting, they take the survey right then and there, and administration walks out of the room. That's been 100% strategy. So I think we might want to look at how many questions are we asking? Do we really get the bang for our buck out of all the questions? Maybe we can pare them down. Maybe we can look at different constructs in year cycles and keeping our participation up.
And then on the, you want to ask about that?
Regarding the TEL, so one of the comments that I've heard is there's no comment box. And I've always been told every survey has to have a comment box just so you can capture those, you know, things that you just haven't thought of. And I know there are pros and cons to that, especially when you're dealing with potential personnel or people, as opposed to just your opinion on other things. So I don't know if there's a way to incorporate that, or if that's something you feel like would be helpful, but you know, it not being, I mean, it can't be directed at personnel.
I think adding a comment box is actually a nice strategy, and maybe putting something on there saying, you know, please, you know, people can't be directed towards personnel. And one of the mistakes we made on, I think it was a budget priority survey that was given last year, is, and I'll take responsibility for this, I did not read every single comment well enough before it was distributed to our working groups, and that caused some painful experiences.
So, maybe this is for Andy or you, Dr. Ligo, but the exit interviews, if someone's already decided they're on the way out, I guess that was like, why wouldn't they share? Like, what's the retaliation they might fear? So I think that was a comment that you made, that we don't get a lot of the exit interviews back. That's one reason why. What would that be?
So I think it's perception, and people's perception is their reality. I've had people share very blunt information on exit interviews, and they want an avenue. We're going to more of an online version, but please feel free to make an appointment and come in. But my perception is the people who really have an issue, they want to share. I just wish they would share before they made their decision to exit. Come and make an appointment with HR. You know, we have employee concern forums. We want to work through those differences before we lose a good employee. But I think there is a perception out there that if I put my name on this, that might get down to reference checks or something in a new place.
Okay. I think what I know of exit interviews from my various employers, I feel like if the employer values their feedback, the exiting employees generally are more apt. This is just observational, not hard data or research, right? This is my own perceptions, that these exiting employees have been more apt to share what was going on. If it was just like, there's an exit interview, we can take your feedback if you want to give it. Generally, my colleagues have chosen or opted not to. So I don't know what that feels like or looks like if we don't have time. Like, if we don't make the time for it, then I don't know that we're going to get good data. So just wanted to put that out there. No response needed, but these have just been my experiences.
Dr. Lugo, do you have any, those employees staying on exit interviews, those employees that are exiting, not just teachers, but you do exit interviews for everybody?
Yes, we do.
And you might not have this data, but what percentage of people exiting do the exiting interview?
In order to give you the, I'd have to do a little research on exactly what percentage. I would say we're probably in the teacher range because it's often part of their checkout procedures at the end of the school year. We're pretty high in the other employee personnel. I would say probably around 50%.
Does anybody else have any other questions? The only thing that I really have to say is I do remember when we would go through our SIP surveys to see, to kind of gauge where we were. It was mandatory, and like I think that having those meetings where otherwise would have been devoted to, I don't know, blood board pathogens or something like that. We could focus on a survey that could actually give us the data to inform our strategic plan. But I think that the suggestion, I don't remember who said it, of having the administrators walk out of the room, could that simply be a really effective strategy? Is there anything that we as a board can do to help you support all of these surveys and other ways to gauge what's going on in the community?
Remind me to present out what the survey says.
Right, we'll do that for sure.
I think that's a really good idea when we talk about our strategic plan and our goals is to have information from surveys like this to help plan. They were nowhere around when they were looking at it.
All right, thank you so much for your presentation about that. Next one looks like it'll probably, this is what we discussed before, I think. This is the discussions on Arizona School Board Association's political agenda, so I feel like this is something that we talked about, right? Mr. Zaragoza?
Yeah. So this weekend is I think it's this weekend, right, Annette? The law conference, and we have designated delegates to go and vote on the ASBA proposed political agenda. I was a delegate, I was on the committee over the summer and discussed with other school board members from across the state with diverse constituencies what we felt the School Board Association should put forward. The new direction is just a much more concise, more simple agenda, and our conversation tonight would be if we had any feedback, not feedback, but any direction to give our delegates. This would be our opportunity to share. This is how we feel you should vote on behalf of Creighton. If you had any strong feelings about agenda items or anything of that nature.
Donna, I know it's on the 10th. Saturday the 10th. Do you know what time it is? I need to get Karen on the sun.
I think it's 8. I believe it's 8. Look at the agenda.
Look for it.
It's right.
Yeah, 8 o'clock it says.
It's okay with
I'll say what I anticipate there could be some debate on. I think it's mostly straightforward. I think there is some debate. There are a number of more aggressive and progressive champions that are looking to expand support and services for early childhood education, some of the wraparound supports as Jeannie describes them. There are others who feel this should just be first grade through 14, right? And then we should kick kids out after that. So I don't know that there's going to be too much up for debate, but I know that some of those elements, especially for the high school and the early childhood, might come up. I wouldn't anticipate any bigger debates than that. I didn't have any direction. I trust our delegates. I think they know what our board stands for, so I didn't have any specific direction for our delegates.
And just looking at I haven't gone all the way to the end, let's see, there's 22, getting all the way to the end of the document. I don't feel like there's anything that sticks out that is a Creighton specific issue that isn't on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I put them in.
There's 3 originally, they're in there, yeah.
It is interesting when you go though and you see the big difference between the urban schools and the more rural schools, and their issues are very, very different than ours. But yeah, I don't think I have anything necessarily that I would want either our delegate or our alternate to pay special attention to. Is there anybody else?
And I'd say the biggest disparity, like the interesting thing that you call it, it's more like the suburban element. But anyway, I think what we care about has been captured here. You know, like let's look at school finance, like number 1. Let's eliminate unfunded mandates. Nothing new, nothing crazy.
All right. Let's see. Agenda. All right, and that will take us to item 10C. Consider and discuss proposed ASBA bylaw changes request.
So this would just be, so ASBA just sends out their, I don't actually think I've seen this before, but I know the School Board Association is trying to be much more attentive and proactive in soliciting our input. And per their bylaws, they had to give us notice to, or we have a certain timeline to propose changes to the bylaws. So this would be, if you have any changes, you got to get your act together.
I feel like we saw an email to the governing board members. All got an email about this, right? Like a while back. Okay. Does anybody have any strong feelings about changing the bylaws for ASBA? Okay. And I think that we're probably done with that. Agenda item 2, which brings us to 11A, future agenda items. Would anybody like to include a future agenda item?
I would like to just add maybe some training or presentation regarding advocacy for the legislature. Parents, board members, whoever, yeah, for anyone who's interested.
Legislative
concerned citizen.
Yeah. Okay. Teachers, yeah, because that's something we've been talking about, trying to do more of. But I think we need to know kind of what's the best way to go about it.
ASBA offers it for board members. They might have a branch that offers it for members of the community as well.
Yeah. I mean, in the past we had a representative from ASBA come and do a training for school board members on a weekend.
So like doing a study session?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
And I know Expect More, at least they were trying to offer some training. So there were some avenues to explore on how we wanted.
Yeah, they had some that I attended, I think it was the year before last, a couple, was it Mondays, legislative Mondays, they called it. So I attended quite a bit and some training down there on that. And we went down to the legislature.
Anybody else with future agenda items?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved in second. All those in favor?
1 minute after.